Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video, and it is finally time to talk about the leader that I'm most excited to play and also the one that I've been playing for about the last month or so. It's none other than Charlotte Katakuri. Charlotte Katakuri is one of my new favorite leaders just because he's also my favorite character. Now I've been playing nothing but Katakuri online as well as offline, and I've tried different variations with different lists, different ratios, but kind of have been settling on this particular version. I'll tell you all why I'm using certain different cards and also what to expect against certain matchups. Now the great thing about Katakuri is that it has a decent chance against every single deck currently in the metagame except for Whitebeard. Unfortunately, Katakuri doesn't have a really good matchup against Whitebeard decks just because a lot of your characters that have trigger or whatever are at 5,000 power, so it's hard to get into the at base 6,000 power Whitebeard without putting additional dawns onto your character. Also, against the mirror as well as against opposing yellow Big Mom decks, Katakuri does fall a little bit short just because, you know, Big Mom has a little bit of an edge because you can control what goes into the life and you can kind of try and look for more 10 cost Charlotte Lin that way. But I still enjoy playing this deck and I'm still excited to talk about it, so let's talk about Charlotte Katakuri and the deck list that I've settled on in the OP-03 metagame. Alright, first of all, we gotta start with, you know, as always, we gotta start with the Dawns. I am using the Crying Straw Hat Crew Dawns by KaizokuKards. Go check them out. A link will be in the description below. I'm gonna put it at the side. And of course, the leader, the namesake leader, it's none other than Charlotte Katakuri. Of course, I gotta spring for the alternate art. It's just one of the nicest looking alternate art right now, currently in the metagame. This leader is extremely strong, putting one Dawn in him, giving you access to information, not only for your own life, but for your opponent's life as well. And he gains 1,000 power. At the very least, you're attacking for like 7k almost like every turn with Katakuri. Against decks like Big Mom, you just want to rearrange your own life. You don't really want to rearrange like their life, because any sort of information that you can give them, let's say like you tilt over Big Mom's life, and then you're like, oh, this card is pretty good. Okay, I'll send it to the bottom. They'll immediately just take it and put it into their hand with Big Mom's ability. So sometimes you kind of want to weigh in on whether you want to be looking at your opponent's life. I usually tend to wait till they are down to their 2 or 3 or 2 life, 3, 2, 1 life, and then try to gain information that way, just because I can know a little bit about like what cards may potentially be in their hand. But at the start of the game, I wouldn't mind looking at my own life to kind of, you know, if I need the Charlotte puddings like the Searcher, I may want to put it at the top. If there's like characters that can be triggered, I may leave them at the top, but if it's like a 2,000 counter, I might ship them to the bottom that I can use for later. So there's no like hard rule on whether you should be attacking into or like looking at the information on your opponent's side of the field or your own side of the field. What I found out is that I usually tend to favor looking at mine first, and once they're down to like the 3, 2, 1 life, I'll start looking at my opponents, except when it comes to Big Mom. So the first 4 cards of this deck, I think this card is really, really important. It's your Searcher, it's Charlotte Pudding. This lets you search the top 4 cards of your deck for a Big Mom Pirates card, as well as a Sanji card. So this is very useful for locating your 10 cost Big Mom. The way this deck wins is by attrition. You kind of just survive whatever your opponent throws at you with your insane amount of counters, and then you drop your 10 cost Big Mom, and then you drop your 10 cost Big Mom, and then you drop your 10 cost Charlotte Lin, and then you just win the game from there. And then you got your Charlotte Katakuri and your Charlotte Lin 7 cost. That's the way you win. So against cards like against decks like Whitebeard, you may want to search for a little bit more of Big Mom to kind of go for a late game attrition. Against any other decks, you might want to kind of favor against Whitebeard. I also try to favor a little bit on Thunderbolt to kind of get rid of opposing Marco the Phoenixes. This is very important. Charlotte Pudding definitely must have a playset in this deck. I wish I could spring for the alternate art, but I don't have it, so that's unfortunate. Then next is actually these next set of cards are all 2,000 counters. So we'll start with Strusen first, and then we'll go with Charlotte Pudding from the starter deck. All of these are 2,000 counters, and then we have or Sanji from the OP-03 as well. These 12 cards are all 2k counters. The only one that I actually end up playing some of the time is Sanji, just because of its ability. Dawn 2, when attacking, you may add the top or bottom card of your life to your hand, and then add up to 1 card from top of your deck to your life. So it's a way of you to draw cards if you have turns that you have extra Dawns. If your opponent's running like a lot of like little searchers, then you may use Sanji for some attacking opportunities if footing's not on the side of the field. So this is where I would run Sanji. Everything else, like I've never ran Strusen. Only one game against Red Green Law, I actually used Strusen's ability to get rid of a 1-cost searcher. I've never used Charlotte Pudding on the field, just because I only ever use as counter. So mostly this deck really plays a lot of counters, and you just want to defend heavily, especially against YBA. You want to kind of defend early on and try to survive the onslaught, and then try to drop your big guns after that. So this version also runs 4 copies of the Brulee from the starter deck, the Big Mom starter deck, just because, you know, you can get like lucky. I have won games where it was the last attack, and then I had 1 life left, my opponent has 2 attackers, Brulee was the last card in my life, and it saved me from losing the game. So Brulee, definitely a really great blocker to have, and this deck just has a lot, and I mean a lot, of character cards with trigger ability. So you can gacha your way into victories if your opponent isn't careful. For example, I am playing 4 copies of Perospero. This is just an insanely strong card for yellow right now. Not only is he, does Perospero have trigger, discard a card from your hand to play this card. More often than not, you'll discard another Perospero or discard a Big Mom that you may not want to play so early to kind of bring him out if your opponent attacks into him in the life. Also, you can just use this to pressure into your opponent's life, and then if it KOs, you can search your top 3 cards of your deck for a Big Mom Pirates card. So it really extends your play. So I think Perospero is just a necessary card. I've been playing the full playset. I've seen some lists run 3, so it all depends on you. Also, don't have the Perospero alternate art just yet, unfortunately. I'm gonna move these to the side a little bit and tell you about the next card, which is none other than Charlotte Cracker. Charlotte Cracker, also, I have 2 of the alternate arts. I still haven't gotten the full playset yet. I think Charlotte Cracker is just a really strong card. Dawn 1, if you have less life than your opponent, this character gains double attack and 1000 power. So if you attack into your opponent when you are at a lower life count, you can always pressure with at least 7000 power double attack. And if your opponent blocks and kind of survives the hit, and then you are still at the lower life count than your opponent, even on your opponent's turn, he will still have the 1000 power boost. So he'll be a 4-cost 6000 power character. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. It does come up sometimes, but Charlotte Cracker is just a really good card offensively. And if you're playing from behind, you can try to pressure your opponent's life with a double attack. Also, he does have trigger. You may discard 1 card from your hand to play this card. You may end up with more units on the field. Also has counter 1000, so that's really good as well. Next is Charlotte Smoothie. I feel like Smoothie and Cracker, all of them have like the trigger effect. So these are really good 4-cost 5000 power attackers. But the good thing about Charlotte Smoothie is against Nami decks, when you want to kind of boost up your attacks, because Nami ain't attacking your life, they won't attack into your life, so you end up with a full grip of 5 life. But with Charlotte Smoothie, you can kind of just use her ability every turn to increase her attack to 7000, but at least you're attacking for 7000 power and you're getting a card from your life into your hand. So I feel like against Nami, Charlotte Smoothie is actually really quite good. Against some other decks, you can play her as a 4-cost 5000 with trigger, and then if you need to go for game and you need that extra boost in attack, and then you can use her ability, get the card into your life, and then start attacking for bigger damage. Smoothie, I think, is just versatile. I have played a version with Charlotte Daifuku, which is replacing the top card of your life with the top card of your library. So essentially you're drawing one with Dawn 1 when attacking. It's a decent card, and I think I really do like Daifuku. I just been enjoying the version with Charlotte Smoothie a little bit more. So you can always kind of pick and choose. I think this list, the one that I've been playing and also adopted from like the ones that the Japanese players have been playing. They have been running Smoothie, Cracker, and Perispera. So I've been following them, I've been trying it out, and it's actually really quite good. Next is the Spice, or at least a little bit, because yellow right now doesn't have a lot of cards. The pool of yellow cards in OP-03 is very small. I think this problem will be rectified once we have more yellow cards enter the metagame. But in this case, we are playing the 4-cost 6000 vanilla. This is Charlotte Opera. Now, the reason why we're running a 6000 powered vanilla is because Marco the Phoenix is 6000 power, Whitebeard is 6000 power. So this vanilla actually does quite a bit. It really does pressure into your opponent really effectively. Doesn't have any trigger, also has only counter 1000, but this vanilla just gives you like an extra oomph against Whitebeard decks. Just a little bit of a fighting chance. It's not the end-all be-all answer. You're still gonna have a hard time against Whitebeard because you really do need your 10-cost Big Mums to kind of play against that. But it's a decent attacker, it's a decent mid-range threat. Your opponent has to find a way to deal with this and your other 4-cost characters as well. This version only runs 3 of Charlotte Opera. You can run the full playset, drop a Cracker if you want to. It's up to you. Alright, now we come to, I would say, the core big threats for the deck. And I've been wrestling with this for so long because I've been running a version that had 4 of the Charlotte Linen, but now this version I am actually having it at only 2. 7-cost Big Mom is an awkward spot. Now with Charlotte Katakuri, you always want to go second because you can curve into pudding. If you have pudding in your first turn, you can 4-down turn, you can play Charlotte Cracker, you can play Opera, you can play Smoothie. 6-down turn, you can play either one of these, as well as attacking and touching down to your leader and attacking into your opponent. Your 8-down turn, you can either play Charlotte Linen or Charlotte Katakuri, and then your 10-down turn, you play Charlotte Linen. The reason why this is a little bit awkward, against opposing yellow decks, this is like the best target for Charlotte Katakuri. If I'm playing against an opposing Charlotte Katakuri and I'm playing this, and then he plays the Charlotte Katakuri, this will be sent to the bottom immediately. And it's such a feel bad, because this card is actually really quite strong. Of course, it's not as strong as the 10-cost Big Mom, but it's still substantially strong. It does give your opponent a choice of whether they want to, sacrifice their life or, give you some extra life. So you can play more. I have run a version that has 4. I run a version of the deck list that run 3. Now I'm using 2 because I'm prioritizing the 10-cost Big Mom instead. And also the next card, which is the 8-cost Charlotte Katakuri right here. Charlotte Katakuri, I really like this card. I only have 1 of the alternate arts. I need 2 more of this. I think Charlotte Katakuri is just a really efficient card in this deck. It's like the best way to kind of just attack into your opponent, as well as use the ability to get rid of threats you don't want, such case in point against opposing 7-cost Big Mums. Marco the Phoenix is a great target as well. A lot of cards from black, from Rob Lucci decks, Rob Lucci himself, Kaku, Fujitora, you can just send them back to the life and deal with them later. Send them to the bottom of the life and then like, okay, at least you know it's there. Opposing Odins, opposing Eustace Kids, this is just a really clean answer, and it's an 8000 power beater, so you can always attack eventually into your opponent with it. I really love Charlotte Katakuri. I have played a version with like 2 copies, 3 copies, which is the current iteration, and 4 copies, which is the full playset. Sometimes this card does gum up your hand a little bit, and I don't feel like 4 is the right answer, so I kind of have it at 3. I'm really happy with it at 3 so far, and I really love this card. This card is a great situationally. Sometimes you can use it to save your own like life. You can put maybe a brulee into your life. You can put one of your trigger cards into your life as well. There was a version of this deck that ran the 5-cost Shirahoshi. I did enjoy putting Shirahoshi into my life with Charlotte Katakuri's ability, and then drawing 3 cards is cunning too as well. But currently the version that I'm playing right now does not run Shirahoshi. Really like this current version as it is right now. I feel like this is the most comfortable list that I have so far. And of course, rounding up the deck, the big 10-cost, the big mama herself, it's none other than 4 copies of Charlotte Lin. I am never leaving home without 4. Charlotte Lin wins you games. This card is just insanely strong. I've talked about this in great detail, and also I only have 1 alternate art. I really do need a full playset. This card is just really strong, and you know what's better than 1 Charlotte Lin on your side of the field? 2. You know what's better than 2? 3. And it may happen. You get your searches. Charlotte Perispera can help you search as well. You are constantly looking at cards in your life. With Charlotte Katakuri, you can kind of search out, you can kind of locate your Big Mom. And against other decks, like against black decks, I tend to kind of try and favor finding Charlotte Lin. Also against Whitebeard decks, this card is just like, okay, you slam it down, you kind of try and stabilize, this card will try to go for game. Every single mirror match that I had against either Charlotte Katakuri or Charlotte Big Mom as a leader, like the one who plays the most Big Moms usually ends up winning the game. So this is something that you really have to consider when you're going into the OP-03 meta game. I just feel like this card is extremely strong. I'm not leaving home without a full playset. Yeah, it's just that good. And then we're going to the events. Now this version does run 4 Thunderbolts. Now Thunderbolts is you may trash 1 card from the top of your life area, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. And the trigger ability is to KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. You don't have to discard the top of your card of your life when it's triggered from your life. So this card has one main job. It's to deal with Micro the Phoenix. When you're going for game, target the Micro the Phoenix. Either the blocker, if you're study early game and you really want to get rid of that 5 cost 6,000 from OP-03 Micro the Phoenix, you can use this one. But I have won many games against Whitebeard because they don't expect this, or they're like, okay, I have one Micro the Phoenix blocker on my side of the field, I have a bunch of counters in my hand, I'm ready to take on the world. And then you get rid of that blocker and then you force them to use the counters in your hand and try to go for game that way. So yeah, you can catch a lot of people off guard with this. Now I think more Whitebeard players should be expecting this, or more people are expecting the Thunderbolt. Doesn't mean I'm not going to run the full playset. I have tried a version with 3 copies, 4 copies. I'm just comfortable with 4 right now. I may drop it down to 3 if I don't see a lot of Whitebeards. But there you go. I mean, like, this card is just really good. And rounding it out is Ikoku Sovereignty. This is your 2 cost plus 5,000 power counter. Yes, you are using it in the late game, but more often than not, sometimes you do use the trigger ability to discard 2 cards from your hand and then gain a life back. Against like the Big Mom mirrors, against maybe like the yellow mirrors, it does come in handy because you have a lot of other 2000 counters that you may just use this card to kind of gain back your life, and that's another way you can look at it as well. So this is currently the version that I am happy with so far. I have tested so many different versions of this deck, one with Shirahoshi, one with like no brulees, just like 2 cost blockers, different ratios, about 7 cost Big Mom, 8 cost Charlotte Katakuri, a version with Charlotte Daifuku, a version running Soul Pokers from the starter deck. That one is actually quite interesting because you can really catch a lot of people off guard. It's just like full play set of Soul Pokers, Charlotte 7 cost Big Mom, and then just try to kind of influence the game that way. But I really like this version of the deck list. I think it stands a fighting chance against like everything else so far. You are going to have a tough time against Whitebeard. There's no way around it. You're gonna have a very tricky, tough time against the mirror. It's a very difficult matchup. I'm still trying to learn the ropes against the mirror, but it all ends up being like you have to kind of micro advantage your way to dropping Charlotte Lin Big Mom and then going for game that way. But against everything else in the meta game, I found that this deck really does stand a good chance against black, against Ace. I've never lost the game against Ace with Charlotte Katakuri. Against Nami, it's a bit tough, but you can get there. You just need to kind of constantly attack with 7Ks to try to get their counters out. Against Red Green Law, I have played a few games against Red Green Law. Big Mom is your answer. Charlotte Katakuri is your answer to a lot of things. And yeah, this deck is just consistent across the board. It's not the best deck in the format. I still think that belongs to Whitebeard. And because Whitebeard is so strong, it makes this deck like not the best deck. But I still believe in Charlotte Katakuri. It is still my favorite leader from OP-03, and I'll still keep playing it even in OP-04, OP-05. I just really love Katakuri, and this is the deck that I'm going to be constantly working on and upgrading in the future as well. Alright, so that's just a really in-depth kind of discussion about how I've been experiencing playing Charlotte Katakuri. I am going to try and upload a few gameplay videos using OP-TCG Sim of me playing this deck list, and maybe try to kind of give you some pointers against different deck lists. Let me know if that's something that you are interested in. I really love Katakuri. I think this is my favorite leader. Even if I suck at it, even if it's not the best deck in the format, I'm still gonna play this leader because it's my favorite character, and I want to play this deck all the way until the next set comes out, and then I'll probably try and upgrade this deck with more yellow cards in the future. So there you go. For those of you who are wanting to play Charlotte Katakuri, give this deck a try. It's really fun. It's aggressive at some times, but then you play your big mumps and you can go for a bit later of a game. I really like the versatility of Charlotte Katakuri, and you know, keeping track of your opponent's cards, especially in the late game. It's like, okay, I know you got a 2k counter in your hand, I know you have this, I know you have that, and it's a great way to kind of train your brain and play this game on another level, I would say. Well, that's it for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the Charlotte Katakuri deck tag. For those of you who are in the OP-02 release, in the OP-03, play Charlotte Katakuri. It's really fun. Make sure you get the alternate art. That's the important thing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.